Hello everybody, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I am your host, Dustin Murphy. Welcome back to our second day of the Battlefield 1 open beta. This is something I have truly been excited to talk about, especially since the talk about it came out in May. In this discussion, we will be going over multiple things. This includes both UI and graphic improvements, but also interface changes that set this one apart and even better the franchise as a whole, and I would love to see in future titles. Now, I do want to give you a disclaimer because, again, this is an open beta. There are bugs, there are issues I've run into, clear down to load times taking obscene amount of time. Now, I do want to thank all of you for tuning in. You can see this as in a way, a hands-on impressions or even review. For many of you who have been playing, I hope you are enjoying this video and stick around, as this is going to be 31 minutes of open discussion that will be leading into the comments, and I will be reading and actually responding to every single one of you. I do hope that all of you have constructive criticism, if there is any, about our video. Now, the question at hand is going to be, what is important about Battlefield 1 and why am I using Battlefield 4 in this video if it's supposed to be about Battlefield 1? Now, to begin, it is because Battlefield 4 will be displaying how far the series has come when it is in comparison to Battlefield 1. Battlefield 4, as many of you know, launched in 2013 when PlayStation 4 and Xbox One launched. It was a game that came out as one of the major headlines. It also featured some of the most incremental changes to the franchise as a whole, with comparison, loadout, and player size. It is the first game on consoles to offer up to 66 players. 2 commanders with 32 players on each side, bringing a total of 33 per team. Something that has never been done before. Battlefield 1 offers up also a cleaned up UI, something that was clunky and problematic in Battlefield 4. Something that we're actually going to take a look at now. Battlefield 4 is a game that still stays dear to my heart. Not as dear as Bad Company 1 and 2, which offered the first changes to the series with destructive environments. Now, the series has actually relished several things. It has become a game that is a staple point in gaming itself. It is a game that is often looked at because of graphical prowess, realistic measures, and even its use of true military technology. Because of this, it is also a game that is commonly flacked by Call of Duty players as a game that does not fit their playstyle. And fortunately, it is something we are used to in this modern era, as they are both games that compete for the best of first-person shooters, even though they could be called apples and oranges when you want to talk about apples and oranges. Because of this, I will not be referencing Call of Duty at all, except for which direction they are going in history and future timelines. Battlefield 4 remains, as many of you know, a modern title that also emphasizes this with its user interface. This is brought to you by the satellite-like load-in when you select your load-in spot, but also your itemization, such as grenades. Here you can see that I picked the incendiary grenades. I'm using a M412 Rex, switched to the P226, but also I'm able to highly customize my weapon, making it even more lethal and more problematic for enemy players at nighttime. You can also see that I used my AK-12 and completely silenced it in order to make it hard for my enemies to kill me. This includes also using camo to better hide myself at night. Unfortunately, if enemies are using night vision, which is not present in World War I, and thankfully, I actually will run into problems trying to flank them and or be as sneaky as possible, because I am highlighted on the map. Now, because Battlefield 1 is taking place during a real era, we can assume that it's going to be harder to fight at night, and there will be maps that bring in different time zone settings, but also different variations of day, whether it's night, it's afternoon, cloudy, rainy, a sandstorm, or what have you, it's going to be there. And that is something that is not seen in Battlefield 4, as the UI and even the graphics weren't quite that far yet. Even though we do have, as you can see, fire burning in the distance and fog, Battlefield 1 sets itself apart with sandstorms and truly lively environments. Whether it's a sandstorm or dust rolling over the dunes, or even flames sparking off a vehicle that has been destroyed, Battlefield 1 remains unwavering from these changes and continues to push itself further than any other Battlefield game to. Unlike Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Battlefield 1 goes back to World War I. It even takes this approach by emphasizing it through the user interface, using badge-like symbols to indicate player classes in your squads, objective names, and overall the entirety of the game. Whether it's rusted tanks to enemy uniforms, Battlefield 1 offers an authenticity that has never been seen before. This includes the use of gas masks, flare guns to highlight enemy locations, and make the battlefield a little easier to navigate. Now, players can also find themselves a little confused by these changes because the removal of the engineer class. Unfortunately for some of you, like myself, I was a little bit disgruntled for this, but I'm actually excited to say the engineer has been replaced by classes when it comes to vehicles. You heard that right. Every vehicle has its own class. If you are a pilot, you're going to find yourself with a rifle-like pistol, a pistol, and grenades, but you're not going to find yourself being as effective on ground as you would be in the air. This is because you are meant to be there. Now, Cavaliers are also ones to don their own weaponry. This is because the Cavalier is, just as it suggests, a Cavalier. They wield a saber, a rifle, grenades, and utilities that are based on their own profession, including a gas mask. This is because, well, in the time, as you saw, I did use gas to smoke out some enemies and unfortunately bring them to their untimely death. Now, those of you who had played Star Wars Battlefront, you're going to notice a few things that came over from Battlefront itself. You're going to take note that the graphics engine itself has been the one that we saw with Battlefront. It offers up more realistic graphics, but let alone does it do that, it also allows for smoother frame rates and better performance. Means we can assume that Battlefield 1, unlike 4, will be running at 1080p, fingers crossed, at 60 frames per second. Unfortunately, because we are on console, we can assume this also means our game will be considered the high-end setting in comparison to PC, whereas PC will be considered the ultra-high and even probably have 4K. This could change, though, with the announcement of both PS4 Neo and Scorpio, which unfortunately I can't discuss too much about since not just a whole lot is known, aside from the fact that Neo will offer up a 30% overall in performance. This means we could see better games in the future. Now, Battlefield 4 was not lacking in its ability to display effectiveness with graphic fidelity and or environmental destruction. It is a game that offered up a PC-like experience and continues to do so even this day. Because of this, DICE represented the fact that they are capable of bringing a PC-like experience to consoles, and that is something that really truly does remain alive. Now, I did talk about environmental destruction, and that is something I do want to give an impression of, because Battlefield 4 was one of the first ones to me that offered a true living and breathing environment. As you see there is dust coming off the streets, paper flowing down the road, there is debris in the air. Now, unlike Battlefield 1, we're not seeing as much, because Battlefield 1 has been optimized to run better and smoother. Even though it's in the beta, it does offer some idea of what to expect when the game launches again on October 21st. Now, because of personal circumstances, I do not know if we will be reviewing the game on date of launch. For many of you wondering, I am going through personal difficulties, and because Blast Away the Game Review is a self-funded by its people, aka myself, my father who's a part of the team, and my friends, what we get is what we get because of developers offering it to us, or we personally go out and spend our own personal money that we've earned by working our day jobs. Now, with that being said, I do hope EA is watching this. If they are, I would love a chance to review your game. It has been astounding. Now, because I have said that and talked about environment, I do want to bring up one of the most important parts of Battlefield 4, which was the Shanghai Tower in, well, one of my favorite maps of all time. For many of you, this map has become an important battleground, so it has it's able to evolve into something entirely new with the simple idea of bringing down the Shanghai Tower. In doing this, you don't just leave point D on this game mode here, which is Conquest for many of you unfamiliar with Battlefield. Conquest is one of those that offers up a hard-to-attack place. The gameplay you saw in Battlefield 1 was actually one of my favorite game modes called Rush, but I prefer Conquest overall because of its ability to constantly evolve combat. Whereas Rush is sometimes a monotonous ordeal to go through, and unfortunately Battlefield 1, it's actually pretty hard as a defender because the map is constantly being lost due to enemy offense being too much and overwhelming the defenders. Because the Shanghai Tower coming down has always been important, I do want to display this by bringing it down with the work of my teammates and the Abrams I'm using. This is because there are several factors in play. Let alone does it evolve the map, it also displays a graphical prowess never seen before on Xbox One or PlayStation 4. And because we are on PlayStation 4, we are talking about it a little more. Now, the thing I do want to point out is you're going to see a small hiccup in the tower coming down. That is not because of the game itself. It is because of a record error that happened with the PlayStation 4. It accidentally saved in the middle of that coming down, so I had to transition it. But it does come down buttery smooth and unchanging in doing so, which is something I was extremely excited to see. With it, also, just like the dunes over in the Sinai Desert, you're going to see something important. The particle effect goes through the roof. There is smoke and dust everywhere. There is burning paper and debris floating around, and it is something that does not change through the rest of the match when that building comes down. Just as you would expect, this offers a level of unbelievable realism that has never been witnessed before. Aside from the fact you can see that I am in a tank and the LED screen is highlighted to offer this up, I am also playing a hardcore mode, which has disabled the mini-map in the satellite view that we've become familiar with. Now, for many of you, you're wondering if Battle Log is in the Battlefield 1 beta. Unfortunately, it is not, which is represented by the fact we do not have a touchpad option to bring up player list, previous map history. Actually, you're not seeing personal achievements and or gold placement to show just how good you are at doing what you're doing. Instead, we were given a bare minimum UI, but it is safe to probably assume that will be implemented in the final version, just as it was with Battlefield Hardline by Visceral. Now, I know many of you are going to be wondering why I do not reference Battlefield 1, and that is because Battlefield 1 does not offer the level of realism for modern war and or historic war. Instead, it is cops and robbers as a glorified game, which is truly not something I was excited for. If I wanted that type of ordeal, I would just go play Payday 2. No offense to Visceral Games, I do personally feel they have shunned themselves in some form, especially as many of us are hoping for Dead Space 4 and or Dead Space Remastered. That is not going to happen at this point. Now, because I do want to talk about authenticity, that is something that Battlefield remains renowned for. As you saw there, when I got out of the tank, everything had changed. The skies went white with smoke in the air, dust loomed ahead, and so did the smoke off burning vehicles that were brought down during the combat. Also, areas around the building have been decimated and damaged in the long run, but matches are also highlighted by 33 players against 33 players. That means 32 actual players on ground and 2 commanders, one on each side. This is something that will hopefully stay intact when Battlefield 1 launches this fall. If it does not, some players such as myself will be a little disappointed, but not too much, as the commander role did not take a pivotal stance on whether your team was going to win or lose, as the commander's job was to spot enemies, highlight objectives, and basically take the role out of squad leaders. Sorry, squad leaders, the commander position did send you to be, unfortunately, expendable. And because of that, we also saw some unique stuff such as UAV's take to the game. I really do hope to see that return at a later date. Now I did say that the level of authenticity is there, but also I talked about the amount of particle effects. This is easily represented by how ever evolving Battlefield 1's battlefields are. As you see here, I went from dust storm to clear skies with dust just roaming around in the air. This is something that offers up a variation in maps and allows maps to truly become alive. Now, because of this, do not expect game modes to offer more maps than what we get at launch. I am suspecting we might get probably 6 maps at launch and roughly 6 to 10 more with the season pass when it launches, or as many of us knows it, Battlefield Premium. Now, for those of you who are getting Battlefield Premium, do stand by. We will be doing a article once we know more about that, just kind of outline what to expect this fall when it launches. Now, Battlefield 1 does bring in something that we saw with Battlefront, which is amazing sound. Let alone does the game have outstanding graphics, sound has become an integral part of the franchise because they do want to offer that cinematic-like experience and level of realism that many of us would come to expect. This can change from the sound of a shovel smacking an enemy, just as I did before, whether it's in the stomach or the face, and even being shot and the bullets passing by. Many of us that have played Battlefield already know that it's not odd to hear bullets zinging by and offering a sense of panic. Now, because of that, we do have a feeling of vulnerability in Battlefield 1 because of all that unique sound. Now, one thing that does offer up a level of vulnerability, as stated, is vehicles. Vehicles, you are no longer invulnerable. Unlike before, you don't have an engineer to constantly come and repair you. This has been replaced by a function for drivers to actually adapt to, which is the self-repair. This is emphasized on PlayStation 1 by using L1, or on Xbox One by pushing right bumper and holding them. This is done by holding them because you are self-repairing. It is emphasized by the sound of a wrench turning itself and fixing. Unfortunately, due to that, the level of realism that we would expect has been drawn away just slightly by more of a cartoonish approach, which, unfortunately for me, actually took the level of immersion slightly away. However, it did not take me away from enjoying, as I stated before, a much cleaner UI. Now, because this is open beta, there are a few changes in the UI that need pointed out. One of them that is most important is bullet drop-off distances. Just as you see here, my M18 trench gun has only an effective range of 100 meters, meaning the maximum bullet distance is 100 meters. This is not influenced in Battlefield 4, as you see here. My weapon distances are only given an idea by a meter. Whether this is to display 10 meters or 100, they aren't exactly giving us that idea. They aren't even emphasizing our range, except for that weapons only have a certain range effective. Battlefield 1 itself actually does fix this by giving us idea of where our weapons can go. Unfortunately, due to customization limitations, we don't have the ability to add attachments, nor do we have the ability to truly see what the game is capable of at a later date. Just like before, classes are leveled up in order to give us new unlocks. This includes your assault, your medic, your support, and your sniper. Unlike before, however, you cannot level up your classes that come from being in vehicles and or accessing them. So do not expect your Cavalier having new unlocks. Do not expect your pilot having different weapons, nor can you expect on having your driver be more effective than he already is, because he will be using your class that you had before. However, like I said, weapons do come into a standard when using the Cavalier or the pilot themselves, each of them having their own unique sets. The Cavalier having a saber, a rifle, a pistol, and his utilities, just as other classes will, and this is emphasized when you scroll over it. Playing an important role as well is your utilities. Much like before, weapons do feel authentic to their time frame. Pistols fire slower than modern weapons, and they are closer range than modern weapons, since their accuracy has been deemed noteworthy. This is also to fit again with immersion and a sense of realism, but also the authenticity that EA themselves managed to pin down with every release of their published games. However, this is not seen in games like Star Wars, where lasers can fly infinitely and nail the side of a tree like no problem. But however, still don't expect a stormtrooper making your shots for you, because he will still miss them. Luckily, that is not the case in Battlefield, since we don't have to deal with them. But one thing that is a complex issue is players getting to areas that feel like they should not be there. And this is truly unfortunate, especially in games like Rush, where planes aren't exactly available, and neither is the ability to climb mountains. Fortunately, that is a good thing, as mountains could be problematic if we were able to be Spider-Man and scale them with no problem. Now, if you're that guy who scaled Trump Tower, more power to you if you can get up to the top of the mountain while carrying your rifle and not getting shot in the process. Now, one thing that does play an important role, let alone is it your classes, your team setups play an even more important role than before, because supplies are limited. You're not going to run around with infinite ammo, you're not going to run around with grenades being everywhere, and you're also not going to run around expecting your sniper rifle to kill enemies with a quick scope. Luckily, that separates this game even more from its competitor Call of Duty, by giving that sense of realism that we all beg for, even with Call of Duty. Weapons like the sniper at close range do offer a realistic appeal to damage, meaning heart shots do count. You will see enemies tumble over and fall over to death. You will see pistols themselves not be effective at close range, while snipers at long range and medium range offer a substantial amount of damage, which disables your enemies. In Rush, weapons do matter even more based on distance, as maps are gigantic and wide. They set themselves apart from Battlefield 4 by being even bigger and more accessible to players of all playstyles. Now, those with you that use assault rifles, you will see them getting a little closer. And actually, they're not assault rifles. I will correct myself and state submachine guns, as assault rifles did not exist until World War II. And that is thanks to German technology and weapon advancement. Now, planes do also offer a new authenticity never seen before. Planes like the Fighter also offer something variant. Their guns are not going to be as effective at long ranges, especially in the Fighter himself, which I believe is called the Assault, especially because his weapons are meant for close range combat, meaning you will be doing flybys like the A-10 Warthog in Battlefield 4. This is actually astounding, because it does make you more aware of what you're doing. Planes like the Bomber are bigger and slower, but also they are not as effective in aerial combat. You will depend on co-pilots to make yourself just as effective, but you are also a much bigger target, meaning enemies will treat you as if you are an airboat. And this is true especially with artillery barrages, displayed here as Kiryu-sama, who became my nemesis for this match, brought me down on a consistent basis using air batteries. Now, as stated before, each vehicle has their own unique loadout, especially in the essence of Cavalier and Plane. As witnessed here, you can see that I am wielding a rifle-like pistol, which offers a medium range to close range combat, effective probably no more than 100 meters, as I will be not fighting too far distance, and in all reality, my character does not belong on the ground. He is meant to be on a plane. Now, the thing that does cause some trouble in Battlefield is this due to restrictive combat spacing. You will see that I'm not as effective fighting people on mounted placements, nor am I as effective against enemies who have much more lethal weaponry. Again, this is due to the fact that my gun is technically made for a pilot, which it is in all reality. Fortunately, Battlefield 1 has carried on a emphasized tactic of picking enemy loadouts up and your own friendly loadouts, meaning if a player has died, you are not restricted from doing so, which unfortunately I did not think about in this moment ahead, as I was brought down by using my rifleman's gun for a pilot. Luckily, the effectiveness of it is still on par with that of a semi-auto rifle, which I would normally find with, say, let's just say the medic, because he does have a scout rifle. Now, one thing that is also easy to take note of, you're not going to find yourself bringing down buildings using planted weaponry unless the weaponry just happens to be aimed towards artillery. This is offering a sense of realism, as the weapons such as the air battery did not offer immediate explosions. They were meant for air explosions. Now, one problem I have encountered across multiple times is trying to figure out how to optimize loadouts, as the maps do offer a varied pacing from close quarters to long range. Luckily enough for me, this also meant that I was able to entertain myself by using the bomber and other planes. As you see here, I decided to go for a closer environment away from the projected combat of being in air and dropping bombs. This also means that Battlefield encounters several issues. For players who do want to take to the sniper role, you're going to find yourself encumbered by cityscapes, which unfortunately in the Sinai Desert is often a problem, since snipers do find themselves taking to rooftops, in doorways and windows. Luckily for all of you, you are not going to be restricted to moving around certain buildings and certain environments, as everything is openly accessible as possible. That means every building, every window, every door can be opened and taken apart by enemy explosives, friendly fire, and friendly explosives. Unfortunately, this also means that several issues do stay intact, which is collision detection, as seen by that plane where he rammed inside the building and blew up to an invisible wall. Unfortunately, it was still going to happen whether he hit the invisible wall or not. In reality, I should have died from the plane going into the building. Luckily, I lived through it and was able to continue on in combat. Now, the one thing that is unique about Battlefield 1 is the fact that battlefields feel alive. They aren't restricted from doing so thanks to DICE's ability to evolve over time. However, this does mean that problems remain intact, whether it's frame rate or sound. I did find performance issues a commonplace. This meant even accessing the options menu became problematic, as I did find myself in a soft lock type issue where I had to be patient for ongoing minutes in order to access them. I apologize about that hiccup, as my own words stumbled. Now, for many of you like myself that have been playing this non-stop, it's not going to be unusual to find yourself finding comparisons between older games. I have done this multiple times, taking drinks of one of my favorite drinks called Balls. For many of you who are planning all-nighters this weekend, if you have not, please visit balls.com, BAWLs.com. We will be linking them down at the bottom, as I have found myself drinking them on a consistent basis thanks to several of my friends who had access to Balls. For many of you wondering what Balls is, they are an all-natural energy drink that offers a definite pow compared to that of Monster or Red Bull. Now, before we do get too far in, I do want to state, EA, if you have watched this, we would love to get into contact with you about a review copy, especially since we have been covering this game a lot, and it's a game that we are truly excited about, but also, we are longtime veterans of the Battlefield franchise here on PlayStation 4 and on PC. However, for many of you that have not had a chance to play on PC, Battlefield 1, from what I understand, does not have as many performance issues as here on PlayStation 4. For many of you who also have taken notice, we are going to be reusing the same video clip multiple times. As to me, this offers a good idea of what Battlefield 1 is going to be like with varied combat scenarios, whether it's long range or cityscape-wise, where you're going to be finding yourself constantly bombarded by enemy fire and artillery. Battlefield 1 offers a varied approach to all forms of combat, be it vehicle, land, or air. You will find yourself in all forms of your own comfort zone. They have not left anybody neglected nor out to dry. For those of you who are playing the Battlefield 1 beta and you would like to play with us, we will be offering a chance to team up with us exclusively on PlayStation Network via the PlayStation 4. If you are wondering how to do that, all you have to do is comment in the comment section your PlayStation ID, your time zone, and when you would like to try and play with us. Unfortunately, at this time, it's going to just be myself, as David Murphy is on vacation at this time, spending time with my little brother for his birthday weekend. Again, Shane, if you are watching this, I do want to give you a big shout out. Happy belated 28th birthday. I love you. I miss you. I hope you have had a blast. If you have not, please download this, and I would love to show some gameplay footage with you in there. If not, I definitely look forward to playing it with you this fall. Again, congratulations on your birthday. I do love and miss you, and I hope to see you and your wife soon. For everybody else, thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate you watching. I hope to see you out on the battlefield. I do appreciate your patience for tuning in and sticking with us for 31 minutes, as I know it is a lot to take in to hear somebody ramble on and make the comparisons I have. We will be doing multi-parts this weekend to keep covering Battlefield 1, as it is in open beta throughout the weekend, and I believe it could even go longer, as they could implement some fixes to fix glaring issues that seem to stick out like a red thumb in the middle of a winter wonderland. Again, I am your host, Dustin Murphy, here at Blast Away the Game Review. I do appreciate, as stated, all of you tuning in. Stay tuned for more coverage this weekend. If you have not downloaded this, as I said, it is available on PlayStation Network via the PlayStation Store, on the Xbox One, the all-in-one entertainment system via the Xbox Live Marketplace, and on PC via Origin. I hope to see you, whether it's defeat and or close victory. I appreciate you tuning in.
PlayStation